And I'm not going to be looking at Facebook. I'm going to be looking at you and having the conversation. And at the end, I'll invite people to, people can ask questions and we'll answer them at the end.
Great.
I'll let you know when we're done. Go back into Facebook Live. Okay. It should say for live or not. Does it say?
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. Letitia here, coming to you this beautiful sunny Thursday afternoon from Toronto. I hope you're all having a wonderful week. As announced yesterday, we are continuing today with my weekly Money Matters webinar series. And our topic for today is owning precious metals inside and outside of your registered portfolios. And as mentioned in my little introductory video yesterday, I think this is a particularly relevant topic in today's day and age, because of the kind of circumstances we find ourselves in economically. In recent months, our governments, both here in Canada and the US and many other countries around the world, have been doing an unprecedented amount of money printing. And as we all understand, simply printing money without creating the value to back it up will inevitably lead to an inflationary environment. And I know other people have been talking about deflation, and we can talk about that later. But I mean, the logical thing that we can perceive is that when you're printing all this paper money, that is inevitably going to be devaluing our currencies. And that's a concern that many of us share. On last week's call, when we talked about cryptocurrencies, we also spoke about that and how we may be able to defend ourselves against that, or at least take make some moves to protect ourselves and our assets to some extent. So joining me on the call today is Jeremy Wiseman, and I will just read Jeremy's bio here. Bear with me for a second. Okay, I have it. Okay, Jeremy is the Vice President of Guildhall Wealth Management, responsible for all facets of the company's growth. Jeremy's strong knowledge of hard assets investments in precious metals and natural fancy colored diamonds enables him to show clients how to manage a portfolio for diversification and wealth preservation. Jeremy is a firm believer in the value proposition offered by precious metals and colored diamond investing, and is in a great position to help his clients make an informed buying decision when purchasing both precious metals, bullion, and natural fancy colored diamonds. His experience and philosophy of business demonstrates the company's core values of value, trust, integrity, transparency, and security. Jeremy is the host of the Real Money Show, a weekly investment program on hard asset investing that takes place on AM 640 radio in Toronto, Canada. And that's every Saturday at 1 p.m. EST and every Sunday at 10 a.m. EST. Once again, that's on AM 640 in case you guys want to get more in depth. In any case, I'm very grateful that Jeremy has agreed to join us today and educate us on the benefits of owning precious metals. We're not going to get into the diamonds today, perhaps on a future call, Jeremy. And again, my feeling is that precious metals can be a great hedge against inflation. As far as I know, they have been something that have maintained their value throughout history. They are a great store of value. Jeremy can share so much more with us today. So with that said, Jeremy, welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks again for joining us.
Yeah, wonderful.
And so Jeremy, again, many of us Canadians, in our informal conversation yesterday, you said to me that as far as your own knowledge, only about 2% of Canadians even own precious metals outside of their jewelry holdings. So first of all, why do you think such a small percentage of Canadians even own precious metals? I guess, I don't know if that's a good place to start. And I guess, what value proposition do you see with people owning precious metals?
Sure. So, it's definitely part of indoctrination, if you will, over decades of believing that the only way to invest is to buy stocks, maybe real estate, typical places where people go. I think if you look at over the last few years in particular, you'd say, okay, well, interest rates are very low and you can't get money by putting it in a savings account and there's no return. So what are you supposed to do? I mean, that's not how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be that I can put my money in the bank, get 5, 6, 7%, which is above the inflation rate, and I can have capital formation. And with that extra savings, I can go out and I can start a business, or I can continue to enrich myself, right? Which enriches society. But that's not the case. So what we've had instead is engineered low interest rates, which we could probably do a whole show on that.
Oh, wow, that'd be fascinating. Yeah.
And now people have been forced to take risk. They either take risk and go into the stock market, or they take risk and take on a massive mortgage and go into the real estate market, or they accept the loss. And sometimes they don't know they're accepting the loss. They just say, okay, I'll do a GIC at 3%, inflation's at 6% plus. So I'm losing 3% out the door, and I'm going to pay capital gains on the rest that I'm getting. So we have to understand inflation, and I'm sure we'll get into it. But ultimately, when it comes to precious metals, for the purpose of the webinar today, I would start by saying this, dropping the seed, and we'll kind of come back to this theme of there is a difference between investing and gold investing and gold ownership. So when we talk about gold, we're meaning gold and silver, or even platinum, palladium, some other metals.
Yeah,
that's all about ownership, not investment.
Got it, Jeremy, and thank you for clarifying that. And perhaps you could get into that in the next few minutes. Could I ask you, if possible, to up your volume on your speakers so that your sound can come through a little louder?
Yeah, how's that? Is that better?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Great.
Yeah. No, I mean, you don't have to come closer. It's just. You're like, boom, boom. No, you're good the way you were. You could actually, you could back up a little bit. I mean, it's totally up to you. Cool. Yeah. So thanks for, and yeah, so that was actually my second question. So when people think about precious metals, I think most people think gold and silver. Those are the first places people go to. Are there any other metals that are considered precious? And first of all, what makes something a precious metal? And again, pardon if it sounds like an ignorant question, but I'm, even though I've worked in the traditional insurance investment industry, this is something new. Even for us as an advisor, we don't get taught this stuff.
Right.
So would you care to enlighten us about that?
Sure. So basically, the tenets of a precious metal, most importantly, is that there's no erosion factor to them. So, just simply think about a ship carrying gold from 500 years ago, sunken in the ocean. You can still pull that product out of the ground, out of the water, and it's as good as it was. You can clean it up. You can bury gold in the ground for thousands of years, pull it out of the ground, and it's exactly as it was. It didn't corrode. Silver may tarnish, but it doesn't corrode. It doesn't erode. It's a very strong metal. Now, there's also platinum and palladium. Those are the other two precious metals, and they all have these similar features. Now, some are more malleable than others. So, for example, 24 karat gold is a very malleable metal. Silver is a little less so. Platinum is actually a very strong metal, so it's very difficult to it's not as pliable. But the idea is that they are malleable, they do not erode, and for those reasons, they are the best thing for money.
Very interesting, and we're going to continue on that thought. And I wanted to ask you, so I mean, I have so many questions, and I've thrown some at you yesterday in our informal conversation. I guess since you started talking a little bit about the quality of the metals, we know that when we buy jewelry, we have the option of buying, 18 karat gold, 24 karat gold. I don't even know what that means. Would you care to enlighten us as to what creates the quality of the gold in this case, or the silver? Because when it comes to silver, it seems that there's also some sort of a qualification as to the purity, it seems. And then does that affect the price and lots of questions?
Sure. So that's a jewelry question. I actually am an accredited jewelry professional through the Gemology Institute of America. What you're talking about within jewelry, I'll talk about gold, is 24 karat gold is pure gold. 18 karat gold is 75% pure. So it's been a mix, it's mixed with an alloy. So for example, 24 karat gold, pure gold is very malleable. It means that it's very easy to scratch it. It's very easy to bend it. And so what jewelers will do is they'll mix it with either a bit of copper or maybe a bit of silver, and that'll strengthen the gold. Now it's down to 18%, and therefore it won't scratch or bend as easily. Then you get down to 12, and then I think 8. But so that's for jewelry. Now, when it comes to owning physical precious metals are all 99.9% pure.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
So that's what we call bullion.
Okay.
Now, there's numismatics, which are coins, right? Coins that maybe once circulated, coins with interesting stories on them. Those are more for collectibles. That's a completely different market. Think of that market as baseball cards and stamps.
Wow.
They're not the easy. You're trying to find, the Babe Ruth baseball card. You're trying to find the rookie Michael Jordan card. That's a different market. It's a different. You're hoping that one of these things you own is going to be the winner.
The jackpot.
Exactly. Whereas with bullion, which is what we provide, it's the closest to the paper price, the spot price that you can get. So it's the most economical way to purchase physical precious metals. And then what we were discussing earlier was about jewelry. So if jewelry is 24 karat, then you've just paid the premium on the design, right? The jeweler, everything like that. It doesn't mean it doesn't have value, but it does mean that if you go to sell it to one of these shops, you're going to get, 20% of what it's worth.
And I'm just curious. Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy. Can a jeweler, looking at a piece of gold, how easy is it to tell whether it's 18% if it's not been marked? That's just a question that came to mind.
Sure. So the products that we have at Guildhall are all what's called LBMA approved. That's London Bullion Market Association. So what is the London Bullion Market Association? They are the group that you have to get onto their good delivery bar list. So they're a regulator, and essentially Royal Canadian Mint has been on the good delivery bar list since I think 1911, 1919. And what it means is that if you are on the LBMA good delivery bar list, then your refiner.
Good delivery, sorry, you're not coming through. Good delivery bar?
Good delivery bar list.
Bar list.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can show you on the website.
Okay, the bar has to do with the gold bars?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you're on the good delivery bar list, it means that your mint or your refinery meets the requirements that you're giving out, you're producing quality product. Right?
Okay.
That across the board, your standards are very high. You're meeting the criteria threshold for LBMA, London Bullion Market Association. And if you are on their good delivery bar list, it means your products are accepted for global trade.
Amazing. Okay.
So just a quick, so that means that Royal Canadian Mint, Perth Mint, the US Mint, the British Mint, products like Pamp Swiss, Agor Heraeus, Asahi, Valcambi, these are all companies that are all on that list, which means, some people like Starbucks, some people like Tim Hortons, coffee, right? At the end of the day, these are interchangeable and all liquid. Now, if your product is not on that list, it could be cheaper to buy, not as liquid when you go to sell. You have less options.
Got it. And that brings me to maybe, we should back up a little bit. I would be curious if you could tell us a little bit about your company, perhaps how you guys even got started in this world of, hard precious metals.
Yes.
And again, you've already explained to me about this LBMA. Say that again. London Bullion
Market Association.
Market Association. So it's sort of the one of the organizations or the organization that certifies that the products that you sell are the real deal.
Yes.
So let's first start with perhaps tell us a little bit about Guildhall and what you guys help clients do. You also threw the word at me, Royal Canadian Mint, and again, I've heard the buzzword. I think they print our coins, but I am not 100% sure. Maybe you can again educate the world about where they come in, and I guess my follow-up question would be tons of questions. Where do you guys actually source your gold? Is it from the Royal Canadian Mint, if I may ask, or are there any other sources? Okay, I've thrown a lot at you. So.
Yes. Okay. When it comes to testing product, Guildhall also has a tester in the office. So for example, if someone's coming to pick up product from us, we do have a simple test that we can just show the clients how it works. As well as if they're bringing back product, we can do the same. So not only are we at Guildhall, we only deal in LBMA approved products,
okay,
but we also can provide the additional confirmation of the physical product by testing it. Now,
okay,
with the Royal Canadian Mint.
That was my last question. Remember, I had asked you,
yes,
if I go to a jeweler, can they tell what quality of gold it is? And you have that facility in-house. Somebody could
yes,
bring a piece of gold and say, hey, I don't know what this is.
yes.
Okay. Good.
So, and then as well, a lot of the different refiners will have different, little different widgets or whatnot to try to help that. So for example, Royal Canadian Mint in their coins, they have a little digital imprint so that there's a piece of hardware you can put the coin in and it'll show you that it's registered to the mint. It's a lot of work. It's kitschy, okay, but it doesn't necessarily get the job done. It's a lot easier to just quickly test the product. Guildhall works with an international wholesaler. So our products are all coming from an international wholesaler, one of the largest in the world, and they are buying direct from the mints. So for example, in Canada, the major mint that we have is the Royal Canadian Mint.
What does mint even mean? And again, pardon my ignorance. You'd think I would know this, but
right. So a mint, there's two ways to approach it. Is that a mint is usually national. Okay, so if you think of a mint, it's, oh, they produce the money.
That's what I always thought. Yeah.
That's what it is. They produce the money. So they're called the mint.
They actually print the physical money. Is that what it is?
When gold was money and silver was money,
okay,
they produced the money. They were the mint.
Okay.
They still produce gold and silver.
Okay.
But gold and silver are not considered quote unquote money per se.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Now, if you're trying to mail it, it would be considered money, but to the everyday person, precious metals are not considered
a direct form of
currency, if you will.
Currency, correct? Yeah, that's the Royal Canadian Mint. So they still. So what is their function today, if I may ask, as far as you understand? You mentioned that they do produce or design these special coins.
Right.
So they sell, are they the same coins that you mentioned using the word numismatics? So these special issue type gold or silver coins, is that kind of where they're at right now in terms of what they produce?
So we're just talking about Royal Canadian Mint.
Yeah.
Royal Canadian Mint, they produce a lot of different coins, the type of stuff that you would see at the post office.
Yeah.
They produce those things. You can go direct to mint.ca and buy these things direct from them. Okay. So that's coins with a polar bear on it, 50th anniversary, this or that.
Yeah.
They're all just different stories to try to get people interested in them. But there's a major premium for all of those type of products.
Okay.
The other things that the mint produces are what we call bullion.
Okay.
100-ounce bars of silver, 10-ounce bars of silver, 1-ounce silver maple coins, which are produced in large quantities, gold, kilo bars, 10-ounce bars, 1-ounce bars, 1-ounce.
Okay.
Now, bullion is again the most economical product to acquire for a gold investor, silver investor. And the mint only sells those direct to a major wholesaler. So in Canada, there's only 5 or 6 places or companies that can buy direct from the Royal Canadian Mint.
Okay, got it. So as an individual, I can't just go and buy a bar. I can buy one of those little coins, but not a bullion. Okay, so thank you for making that so clear. So, and I assume you guys deal with one of the wholesalers, correct? Or
Correct. We deal with a wholesaler, one of the largest in North America, and they're buying direct from the mint. And we also work directly with our wholesaler for the registered accounts.
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's going to be a follow-up question. But something that came to mind is I have friends who are in the mining industry, including gold mining.
Mm-hmm.
I would guess that all happens behind the scenes. The gold gets extracted. It gets somehow the Canadian Mint, I guess, buys it and then produces these bars.
Yeah.
It's the whole process, right?
Right. So there is a difference. Yeah. So the mining, obviously, they pull it out of the ground. The wonderful thing about precious metals, going right back to the beginning of our conversation, for those maybe just joining us, is once gold or silver has been pulled out of the ground and refined, that's it. It's stored energy. It's stored value, right? So, you can take a bar that's 20 years old, send it to the, and refine it into something else, right? Let's say you received a bunch of jewelry, you inherited it, you don't like it, but it still has a feeling in it. So you can remake it into something else, right? It still has the spirit of it, right?
Mhm.
Nobody's interested in 2015 silver maples,
Yeah.
but the wholesaler will buy those back from the public, literally sell them back to Royal Canadian Mint, and Royal Canadian Mint will just turn on the fire, heat them up, melt them down, make sure they're refined to 99% purity, and refashion them into 2020. You start to understand the energy of the world on that, right? The
Yeah.
simplicity of metal in terms of stored energy, the fact that it's easy to just turn it from one product into another and move into other things. And that's another part of the beauty of it. Gold, silver, you're owning that product. Mining stocks is about trying to invest in a sector. You're hoping that company does well, that they have great margins, great management,
Sure.
that they
Yeah.
pull enough product out of the ground and their stock goes up and you benefit. That's not gold and silver ownership. That's investing in a gold sector.
Yeah, and thank you for also clarifying that. And some people may also want to do that, but it's not the same as owning the actual, the end results of the end result of those efforts, of the miners' efforts, and in bringing it. So you're here, you're buying the actual physical metal. Let me, I know I had a few other questions. Let me just see. There were some things I wanted to cover. Now you have mentioned, and I think this is news to a lot of Canadians, that they can hold physical precious metals, and in particular, we're talking about gold and silver, in this case, inside their registered accounts.
Yes.
How does that even work? I mean, we think of this physical, we think of an RRSP or TFSA as a virtual account. Like I like to explain to clients, it's like an envelope, and in it, you can have all kinds of different investments. But now we're saying we're going to put a physical investment in this, what seems to be a virtual envelope,
Exactly.
So how does that even work? You buy, maybe you can explain that.
Sure. So the way it works is we have a motto: if you can't hold it, you don't own it. And so what we did is we work with a vault in Toronto. It's an IROC approved vault. That's the Investment Industry Regulatory Organization of Canada. They're independent. So they're not affiliated with a bank. They are literally just a bullion vault. Independent, insured, and regulated. Because we have that, we can now use it to put precious metals into that account. So we work with Questrade. They're our custodian. They handle the regulations and all of that. They're our partner. Okay. So a customer would open an account with Questrade. We would help you with that. And then when it comes time to make the purchase, instead of just going online and saying buy, sell, you would work with someone like myself, a broker, and we would help you acquire that product direct from the wholesaler. It's in something called a closed loop system, meaning you're buying product that has never left the vault. So the integrity of the product is guaranteed. So you're buying the product direct, it gets shipped to the vault within 10 days. Then you receive an inventory report. So it's got your name on it, your sub account at the vault, meaning your product is separated from all other holdings at the vault. It's not touched, commingled. You're not sharing it all on the same skid. It's separated from everywhere else.
Cool.
And then it's allocated, meaning the serial numbers are listed on the report. So it's an inventory report / warehouse receipt, if you will. You receive that. So now you know, oh, okay, so I have these bars with this serial number on it. Now take us to task. Now you want to set up your appointment, go to the vault, and personally audit your holdings. And that's where it gets kind of fun, because you go to the vault and you've got your inventory report. They've brought out the product. All of the gold there matches the gold on the report or the silver on the report. And you say to yourself, wait a minute, so this is actually my product in my RRSP.
Yeah, it's mine.
You're holding it and you're saying, wow, like this is really mine. And yes, it's really yours.
Got it. That's so fascinating, Jeremy. So just to clarify for people who may not be familiar with this, I would assume that Questrade, it would be a self-directed, what we would call a self-directed RRSP, because yes. I know Questrade also enables people to trade stock and other things. So perhaps, you know what, if you have a contact there, they would be a good guest for us to have on our show.
Sure. Yeah. So yeah.
Not right now, but like we'll talk about that later. Okay?
Exactly. So yeah, go ahead.
So sorry for interrupting you, but so we're dealing with sorry, what were you going to say? Say that again. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say they're IROC approved. They're a member of the Canadian Insurance Protection Fund. We can put precious metals into RSP, TFSA, LIF, RIF, RESP. Actually, I have an RESP for my son. I've got gold and silver in there for him. And we can transfer from an existing institution. So, you know, yes. If you're with TD or CIBC or Fidelity, whatever, you can move over a portion, all of it, whatever you're comfortable with. There's no penalty. You're just moving the custodian. So, you know, Fidelity is the custodian.
They may have, unless they're tied into one of those, my God, what are they called? Deferred fee schedules.
Right.
So I mean, sometimes there are upfront fee schedules that when people buy mutual funds, but you would deal with that. They could be done gradually so that to minimize any penalties, if anything. But that's so interesting. So I guess I have a curiosity about that. So when you have this self-directed RRSP, let's say with Questrade, and you can own physical gold inside it, which I think, again, a lot of Canadians don't even know that that's possible. Would you have to have, and let's say you also want to own some stocks. Now, would it be a separate account, I would imagine, or same account? You could just throw everything in there. Yeah. Isn't that fantastic, guys?
Yeah. We just help people with the physical acquisition.
Yes.
And the management of the physical product. So management meaning getting you your inventory report, setting up your appointment to the vault. We also provide a level of service. So because we're working with clients individually, you can have all the stocks you want in there, but if you're holding precious metals with us and Questrade, you've got a single point of contact. You don't have to call Questrade and go through their security checks and wait online and then speak to someone who doesn't really know your account. You can contact us and we can get the info for you. So Beautiful. We just add an extra level of service.
Beautiful. Thanks, Jeremy. That's good to know. Yeah. So this is all very fascinating. And and just in case people don't know, you can have multiple RRSP accounts, multiple TFSA accounts, just in case you don't know. You may have one at the bank invested in mutual funds. You may have one at an insurance company where you own some segregated funds. You could have a self-directed RRSP or TFSA where, as Jeremy just explained, you could own physical gold and silver inside that account. Yep. And you could also use that with Questrade. And again, I'm curious to have somebody from them explain to us about, individual stocks, and I don't know what else they offer, but again, I look forward to finding out more. So again, as long as you don't go over your contribution limits, you can literally have multiple accounts all over the place. You could have something with your employer. I want people to know that just in case they don't know. So with that said, I know I had a bunch more questions for you, Jeremy, so bear with me for a second. We already spoke about the quality of the metals and what makes a legitimate supplier. And then you explained to us about the LBMA, London Bullion Marketing Association, being a member of that. So you said to me that there are suppliers out there that don't even have that certification. How can you even trust these other companies? Are people, because I fear like the question of trust is a big one. How do I know that? How do I know, number one, that I'm buying the legitimate metal and I'm not getting scammed?
Yeah.
So the security, you already mentioned about the vault system. Why don't you tell us more about both those things? Like number one, the again, okay, yeah.
Sure. So this market is you're buying an asset, right? So it's an off-books purchase. It's a private transaction. Okay. And there's lots of different bullion companies out there, from, you know, a mom and pop coin shop to a large dealer. At Guildhall, we only deal in physical product that's LBMA approved. You can buy it direct, you can store it, or you can put it in a registered account. It's that simple. But you know, we live in a digital world, and people can go online and they can compare prices just like they would with, you know, a vacuum cleaner or, you know, a Dyson or whatever it is. And that's where things can run into trouble, because you know, are you comparing similar products? Is it LBMA approved? That's the key. That's a takeaway for your audience today.
Absolutely.
Is it LBMA? Because otherwise I'm buying cheaper product and hey, I got a deal. But when it comes time to sell it, you know, precious metals are one of the most liquid assets in the world. You can, you know, I had a client just before we got on here. Yeah. You know, she brought back 7 ounces of gold that she bought 5 years ago. Done. Transactions done. Right? No issue.
That's a great question. So I have a follow-up question, because it might surprise people to know that they are one of the most liquid form of assets, because we are thinking about it's a hard asset. How can you tell me that's liquid?
Right.
So, but you're telling me that, in other words, the aftermarket or like it's actually very easy to get rid of them, so to speak. So why do you say that? Can you clarify that for our audience? Why do
right. So I mean, we talked about it earlier, you know, the idea that it's so easy to recycle the product.
Yes.
Guildhall typically doesn't sell recycled product, in the sense of, if someone brings back a coin from 5 years ago, you know, our clients don't want that. So for us, it's easier to actually turn around and just resell it back to our wholesaler.
Got it.
Right.
And they take care of all that. Yeah.
Right. Now we're big enough. We've got a couple different wholesalers that we work with. But let's say you're dealing with a smaller company. Well, they might be waiting for more product to come in, and they're selling older product. And so, you know, that's where you can kind of run into some problems. Or you're buying non-LBMA approved products. So you bought it with this company, they're no longer there. You've moved to a different town, and now you want to sell it. You bring that product to, let's say, a Guildhall, and we go, what do you want me to do with this? Right? I'm not going to resell it. If I'm going to sell it, I'm probably going to try to sell it right back to my wholesaler. And that's a lot of extra work here and there. So it's not going to be cheap.
If it's not LDMA approved, because your wholesalers also would prefer to deal with LDMA approved
That's
products.
Right.
Okay. So fascinating. Okay.
You know, maybe it was cheaper at the front end, but it's not going to help you in the back end. Right. Or, you know, we've seen it a lot in this market. So, you know, we only deal with LBMA, and I think that you should always, if people who are looking to buy, that's one thing to consider. The other things to consider is it immediately available? You know, it's great if a price is cheap.
Absolutely. Right? And that was another great question I had for you. So I'm glad you brought that up. Sorry for interrupting, but as a follow-up to the LDMA question, is it possible that somebody may try to fake their status and say, oh, we are LDMA approved? Is there a place where clients can go and actually check that this seller is in fact on the LDMA list? Is it LDMA dot, what is it?
Do you want me to show you?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
Yeah. Did you want to share? Yeah, I know there were a few things that you wanted to share. Why don't I'm going to make you host so you can do that.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that's very important for people to know, in case, you know, hey, I would love for people to deal with you guys, but in case one of their friends or what have you is dealing with somebody else, how do they know that they're buying the real thing and they're not
Sure.
risking their money?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me, okay. You can see this screen here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Goldprice.org.
So I'm going to start here, which is what we've been talking about, LBMA. Right, so you can just see what their site is all about, what London Bullion Market Association
I
is
see.
all
So it's
about.
lbma.org.uk.
Yeah, and then you can go to good delivery, okay, and then you can just, I mean, this is about the good delivery list, and then you can go to the actual list itself.
Okay.
All right,
Delivery.
So on this list, I'm just going to go Royal Canadian Mint.
Okay.
All right. And we can see that they're on the list, and they've been on the list since 2019.
Okay.
All right. So
since 1919.
Since 1919, sorry.
Yeah.
Another way you could go is to say, okay, I'm going to go by country. Let's look at Canada. What other mints are there? There's Asahi, right?
Okay.
There's Glencore.
Okay.
So Asahi is actually an international brand, so they would be Canada, US, and Japan. Or we could go to very quickly, I don't know, let's go Switzerland, because they have a lot of refiners there. So you can see Agor Heraeus, Pamp Swiss, Valcampi.
Okay.
So that allows you to know where, it's an interesting way to go.
Okay, but your company name is not there. So this is kind of, but you make it clear that you deal with the Royal Canadian Mint, and then so if I may ask, is there a way to see that you're a qualified dealer for the Royal Canadian Mint?
Sure. So this is mint.ca.
Yeah.
And you can find a bullion DNA dealer.
Okay.
Right. So we can go to Canada,
Perfect.
Canadian dealers, Ontario, and you can see all these companies. Some are big, some are not.
Yeah. Okay. And there you guys are. Okay. Right. Fabulous.
Now, before we jump back, I love this chart, and I think everyone joining us today should really take a look at this. This is on goldprice.org.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's always saying gold and silver are volatile.
Right.
But look at gold and Canadian dollars over the last 15 years. I mean, that's hardly a volatile metal. In fact, out of all of them, it's hardly volatile. This is gold in a variety of currencies, and it says gold price performance, but that's not actually what this is. What this is actually a reflection of is the devaluing of those currencies.
That's so fascinating that you'd say that. Wow. What happened in 2013? I'm wondering, would you know?
Yeah, so in 2013 was basically on the back end of, if we go to, let me just.
If anybody's watching on Facebook, while Jeremy is sharing his screen, we're not able to see the Facebook screen. If you have any questions for Jeremy, please put them in the comment section, and as soon as we finish our conversation, we'll be happy to address them.
So basically, this is what we're looking at. This was 2008, right? Precious metals have been moving up because of inflation, because of the expectation of inflation. Yeah. 2008 crisis hit, the metals got tanked, sort of throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And then all of a sudden, quantitative easing kicked in, and people said, oh my gosh, like if we thought inflation was bad in 2004, 2005, what about this? So the market went up extremely. And then obviously at the back end of 2013, everything was supposedly normal again. And even though money printing had kept up, and all of a sudden the market of precious metals went down, you can see lower highs, lower lows. Gold bottomed out in 2015, right? And as of 2020, you can see, you start to see the effects. We started to already see that the economy was starting to disintegrate, and then obviously COVID has.
That's a strong word, Jeremy.
Well, I mean,
but I know, like
that's the truth, and COVID just really upped the timetable on that. And obviously, right now you can see gold is not just intraday all-time highs. It's actually there. We're now at those multi-year highs. Now, what's even more interesting is if you look at it in something like a Canadian dollar, Okay, there were the highs in 2008, and this is where we are today.
Yeah.
In Canadian dollars.
Yeah.
So again, this is about the devaluing of the Canadian dollar.
Yeah.
Silver this year.
Not good news. I mean, so that's got it. Yeah. Tell us about silver.
Yeah. So, yeah. Do you want me to continue?
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead, please. Sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So yeah, I mean, silver is more volatile in that respect. It's a smaller market. Obviously, right now, this year, we're up 32%. And that's kind of what happens in the silver market. You know, if you go back to 2010, 11, you know, you had silver up over 120% in a single year, in 2 years. Those are the type of gains that can be had in the silver market.
Wow.
I think we're seeing those today. I think given the amount of money that's been put into the market, I'll just do this one last slide here, kind of thing for our Canadian viewers. This is the Canadian Bank of Canada balance sheet. You can see what it looked like in 2008. You know, there's the securities buying back security agreements. They bought this much, and look at where they are today. Right? These are government bonds. They're buying government bonds.
So explain that to us, because I don't even know if I understand this. Tell us what this actually means.
Well, this just shows you what their liabilities are, meaning what they're spending money on. So the Canadian government is buying treasury bills. They're buying government bonds. That's literally monetizing the debt.
Right. Okay, interesting. So just to put it in even plainer language, what this means is that they're burying themselves deeper and deeper into debt. And is that what that means?
Yeah, which is why they've lost their AAA rating.
Wow. For the Canada bonds, they've lost the AAA rating?
Canada's financial rating, they've lost their AAA rating. So they
know that, guys? Did you know that? All of you watching, did you know that we're in a first world country, and basically the Canadian government is they've lost their AAA rating. That's fascinating.
So
because we are so deeply in debt, and guess who's on the hook for all that debt? Ha 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 ha! Not funny. Our children's children are going to be on the hook for that. Oh, we're not going to get into that conversation right now. But yeah, Jeremy, is there something else you wanted to show us in terms of slides?
No, I think that was good.
Okay, I do have more follow-up questions for you in the next 15 minutes that we have left.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me just see here what I got. Well, okay. Yeah, you had started talking about, number one, you talked about the vaults. And I mean, I guess the concern people might have was like, well, how can I trust that these vaults are, that my money is really safe there?
Right.
And you mentioned that they carry insurance, and I'm guessing they have security. And you mentioned in our informal conversation that you deal with a vault in Toronto, and then you also have some international vaults. Can you tell us about that, please?
Right. So the idea is that we want to work with independent vaults, meaning they're outside the banking system, right? People don't trust banks, right? At this point, they don't trust the financial system.
Well, less and less so, unfortunately.
You know, if we look at what happened in Cyprus, there was bank bail-ins. You go to the bank, sorry, you can't get your money, right? Yeah. And that's been written into law, so it can happen here. If it happened there, it can happen anywhere. And so there should be a concern for people to have more money in the bank than isn't what's insured, right?
Yeah.
Now with a bullion bank, or not a bullion bank, with a vault, look, their primary, it's like banking back in the 60s. Their primary purpose is to literally just store the physical metal for you. It's your product. You can go and take it whenever you want. And there's no other entity in there with control over that metal. It's yours. So if it's an independent and it's not a financial institution, why would they want to have your product? Why would they want to use it? If they used it, then they'd literally be taking it out. You would no longer have the same serial numbers, and you'd say, you guys are crooks.
Of course, and their business would be done.
Insurance is for.
Okay, got it.
Right?
Okay.
So it's against theft, or like all of those things, and theft does not preclude the actual vault itself. But that's what they're in the business for. So we're all in the business to help people benefit from their precious metals.
Got it.
Sure, are there rogue elements in any industry? Absolutely. That's where, that's where trust gets built in. We've been in business since 2002. You can go onto Trustpilot and view our reviews and things like that. Obviously, we've had a radio show since 2008. So, we build up loyalty and credibility through different sources so that people feel that comfort level. And of course, with the vault, there's no, you can take the product out at any time.
Got it.
Right? So we don't hold anybody to it. We don't say, oh, you can't take it out for 5 years, right?
Good. Okay.
That's something a financial institution does because they're using the money.
With the deferred fee schedules, in some ways, right? So I guess my other question was, Jeremy, is there a minimum amount? Now you mentioned you guys specialize in selling bullions. And again, as an uninformed person, is there like a small size of bullion and then there's larger sizes?
Yeah.
And so that's my first question. Number one, is there a minimum amount that somebody can buy, whether in silver or gold? You can talk about
okay. There's different size products. Okay. And the way it works in the market is the cost of the product breaks down to this. There's a spot price, which is sort of like the wood, not the desk, or what I like to say, the chocolate, the sugar, not the Kit Kat, right? So now they've got to refine the product and fabricated it and fashion it into a certain bar. Now, the larger the chocolate bar, the lower the price.
Ah, okay, interesting.
Right? So 100-ounce bar of silver is going to be cheaper than a 10-ounce bar.
No way.
And it's going to be cheaper than a 1-ounce bar.
The price per gram or per ounce goes down.
Correct.
Okay, yeah.
Now, and then if you're buying a lot of product, now you get into volume discounts.
Okay.
Okay. Now we work it based on account size, not based on order size.
Okay.
So
in other words, somebody could buy some gold, some silver, and you look at if it's past a certain dollar value. Okay.
Yeah, and then you get access to better pricing.
Okay.
And then, the smallest you could do is a 10-ounce bar of silver. You could do a tube of silver maples, which is 25 ounces. We also do 1-ounce silver bars, which would be in a tube of 20. So you're looking at either a 10-ounce purchase, a 20-ounce purchase, or 25-ounce purchase. Those would be the minimums.
And in Canadian dollars, what are we looking at right now, roughly for that?
Good question. Let me just.
If you want to share your screen again.
Sure.
Totally. You're still the host. Oh no, I gotta make you a host again. Sorry, one sec.
No problem.
Thanks for answering all our questions. Well, all my questions so far, and I'll definitely let you know if there are additional questions on Facebook. I believe there will be, but I'm not done with you yet. I still have more.
Okay.
Okay.
So here's our e-store. These are just some silver products here. I've converted to Canadian. Actually, I'm going to convert back just for 1 second.
Yeah.
So precious metals, they're a global commodity, so they're valued in US dollars.
Okay.
So we can see here silver is trading at $22.60 an ounce. That's the spot price. Okay. And you can see the cost to actually acquire a 100-ounce bar is going to be $26.35.
So what do you keep saying a spot price? It's a technical term. The spot price is this.
The spot price is the paper unfabricated price.
Okay.
Right. So it's the cotton, not the t-shirt.
Got it. But we're not buying that. We're buying the refined product.
Exactly. You're buying the actual t-shirt instead of producing it yourself.
Yes. And is there another name for that? The refined price or the?
Yeah. So we call that the fabricated price.
Okay. And when people Google the price of a gram of gold or silver, is that the spot price or is that the fabricated price?
They'd probably be looking, if they were looking up a specific bar, they're probably going to get the bar price. Okay. If they're just looking up gold price, they'll probably get the spot price.
I see.
So this just shows you very simply that, okay, we're at $22.60. Right now it's basically $4 over spot. Okay. Now that's a much larger premium than usual. And the reason for that is because there's zero product available. There's such a lack of physical product in the market that, refiners can't get the product out fast enough. The product that's available there's a lot of costs involved there. And so there's just a higher premium. The only way to fix this is to produce a lot more silver or for the price to rise significantly.
Wow.
I wouldn't be intimidated by that. That's just a case of, if you go back to March and when COVID hit, you want more toilet paper, you're going to pay for it.
Fair
right?
enough. So that brings me to you brought up a good point about the wait times, and I remember speaking to another one of my contacts who I guess was not familiar with you guys and ended up using a source out in the U.S. And anyway, he paid for the product and he's still waiting for the shipment to come in, and it's been like 6 weeks already. As far as I understand.
I am very sorry for him. I do not recommend buying product unless it's immediately available. We talked about that a little bit earlier, where it's like, hey, if the price is right, great. Now make sure that they actually have the product and it's available to pick up.
Wow.
On our site, I mean, you can see we only have 3 products right here. Okay. But one of the things you don't see here is a product that's sold out.
Okay, interesting.
It's on the site, it's available.
Okay. Wow.
Okay.
Okay.
So same thing with the coins right now.
Okay.
We have
these coins, are these the coins that you were mentioning to me that they're by the Royal Canadian Mint, and some of them may one day have special value or
no?
Okay.
These are produced in mass quantities.
Okay.
They're the 1 ounce silver maples. They come in a box of 500 like this. This is called a monster box.
Okay.
Or you can buy them individually in the tube.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's 900 for 25 of them?
Yes, 900 for 25 of them.
Okay.
Or just under 18,000 for 500. And then, you can look at some gold.
Beautiful.
And you can see that we've got a variety of gold products available, down to like a multi-gram pack, or you can buy in 5-gram increments.
I have to say, I'm getting excited just looking at all this.
Yeah, but 1 grams are great. We also have a 10-gram bar, but these products are great. They're pretty standard. They were on the list, and I showed you earlier. Agora Horaeus, Pamp Swiss are in Switzerland. This one's Canadian.
Okay.
Right. So we're paying what, 2,700 plus right now.
Okay.
But that pales in comparison to the amount of debts that are out there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So, fascinating.
Yeah.
Let me see how much. Let me see if I had. And I didn't ask you if there's a maximum amount that somebody can buy. I mean, again, when it comes to registered account, and by the way, for our American friends watching, Guildhall Wealth does deal with American clients as well.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, including you two have the ability to hold physical gold or silver inside IRA accounts. I remember you mentioning that to me.
Right. So for American viewers, we can set them up with a source. One of our partners, they're IRA approved, and that they can put physical gold in IRAs.
Okay, good to know. And so, I mean, if somebody wants to own the precious metals inside a registered account, obviously we spoke about how there are contribution limits, so you can't go beyond that, or you're going to be penalized by the government. But beyond that, if somebody just wants to own it, is there a maximum amount that somebody can buy?
No, I mean, it's only subject to availability.
Okay.
And I would say in that sense, there would be limits in terms of making sure that you're getting the product, in a timely fashion. And so there is a limited amount of product out there. So to have it available and not have a situation, unfortunately, like your friend, where you're waiting 6 weeks.
Yeah.
We don't want to see people wait 6 weeks. That doesn't look good for us. That's very poor business.
Wow.
And these are some of the pitfalls that people should look out for. They should make sure that the product is LBMA approved. They should make sure that their company that they're working with has good reviews. They should make sure that they're reputable and that the products are LBMA and that the product is available right now. Can I come?
Right. So if somebody, just kind of, well, so many amazing, but you've already answered a lot of the questions that I had. So if somebody, let's say, just wants to buy some product through you guys, how can they do it? You showed us your beautiful website. They can literally, so they can buy online.
Yeah.
Can they buy cash? Can they pay cash for it if they want to be hush hush about? Like, I don't know.
Right. So you can go online, you can contact us directly. You can come pick up the product. Our offices are in Markham. If cash, obviously, we have to have at the office, maximum 9,500 per person per year.
9,500. Okay. And
Canadian.
is that because of the fiscal regulations?
Yes.
Oh, and you don't want to get, because anything over 10,000 Canadian, you have to declare the transaction to fiscal, and that just adds more complication, more red tape to you guys, and you'd rather not, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
and look, it's a private transaction. You know, a lot of people will go to the bank, literally take out $9,500 cash, and then bring it here. And don't do that. It's a waste. The government isn't watching. You know, oh, Guildhall is a gold dealer. You know,
No, because
it's safer to not carry the cash. It's safer to just pay by e-transfer, by draft, by wire,
got it.
get pre-authorized debit. It's a lot easier to do it that way. It's a safer transaction. You get your physical product.
Got it.
You can store it wherever you wish.
Got it. So if somebody's doing an online transaction, can they go over the 10K limits in that case?
Yes. Again, payment is either for a larger transaction, be a draft or a wire transfer. If we've set up a relationship, then we also have pre-authorized debit.
Got it. And I see. So that would be okay. And obviously, if somebody's transferring, let's say they have $50,000 in their RRSP and they decide they want to use some of that, you help them deal with that transfer through your partner Questrade in this case, and you have somebody to help them with that whole process, correct?
Yeah, literally, we would open the account, we would issue the transfer request, we would monitor when the funds arrive, we would monitor if there's any issues that pop up along the way. We just try to make that process as smooth as possible for the customer. And then once the funds are there, we work with the client to give them a quote, let them know what the pricing is, help them make that purchase. They are broker assisted. We do everything with the client's acknowledgement. We tape off that call, record that authorization, and then the product's delivered. They get their inventory report. They can go and visit the vault.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And you did mention to me, Jeremy, that for clients to store the gold or silver or other questions in a vault, you were looking at about a minimum 20K purchase for that layer of security to make sense.
Yeah, the juice has to be worth the squeeze. You know, and also it works for each person. So, you know, if someone's buying $10,000 worth of product, it is probably enough product that they could store it themselves, put it in a safety deposit box, you know, spread it around a little bit. It's kind of like a rainy day fund. Then you might move up to, okay, well, I've got that rainy day fund and now I'm working up to a larger purchase and I do want to store that somewhere because I don't want to just have it all at home, right? Now, some people might be comfortable to bury it. Some people might be more comfortable if it's in a vault, if it's secured, it's insured, and now to sell it, all I have to do is pick up the phone. That's good liquidity. That's a good thing to have, especially if the market turns on you very quickly. You don't want to have to stop everything you're doing. You want to just pick up the phone and say, hey, Jeremy, sell 500 ounces of silver.
Beautiful.
And then there's the registered account. So
yeah. And you did mention to me that you have a vault here in the Toronto area, and then you have one in the Cayman Islands.
Yeah, we have partners in the Cayman. We also have a partner in Singapore. So anyone who wants to store product, and US, most people aren't storing in the US these days, but we do have global partners.
We're not gonna.
They're all
comment too much on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think this is something worth speaking about, because some people may be concerned that, well, what if the government decides to confiscate my precious metals? I mean, we are living in some interesting times, okay? And we don't know how much more interesting it's going to get. We can, so what do you have to say to that? Because some people, when I've even mentioned this subject matter, they're like, whoa, but didn't the government take people's precious metals away back in, I don't know, 1933, I think it was?
Yeah, it was a different time. The people had a faith in government. You have to understand the context of history in that respect. And there was a gold standard in the United States, and they didn't confiscate in terms of There weren't Nazis coming door to door with rifles saying, give us your gold. They were asked to bring it in. They received cash for their gold,
Okay.
which was as good as gold.
Because it was backed by gold at the time.
It
It wasn't
backed
just
by gold.
paper money that's printed out of nothing.
So at the time, it was a patriotic thing that they did. Now, the government turned around and revalued it from 25 to 35, right? That was a nefarious thing for the government to do.
So from 1925 to 1935, is that what you meant?
No, after they brought in all the gold from people and gave them cash, they revalued gold from $25 to $35 an ounce.
I see, back then, which back
so
then was,
so if we want to talk confiscation, that's where the confiscation happened. Now,
I see.
Anyone who's concerned about the government confiscating physical gold, I would say several things. One, the government would have to employ a lot of manpower and energy to go door to door for a mere 2% of the population that own actual physical product. And it's usually the person who's only buying like 4 or 5 ounces of gold worried about confiscation. It would be a lot easier, number one, for a government to just nationalize a mine.
Yeah, fair enough.
To literally go door to door and, like a Nazi, physically at the barrel of a gun, take away someone's gold. Now, on the other side, the government since the 70s has done an incredible job of confiscating wealth through inflation and taxes.
Yeah.
And nobody seems to be concerned at all that the government says inflation's at 2%. It's probably more like 5 or 6. Now, if it's only 5%, that means every 10 years you're losing 50% of your purchasing power, which means 10 years ago, if you had a $100,000 salary, today you need 150. Okay. Now, if it's more than 5%, you can start to see where that's really affecting you. Now, not only is inflation a problem in that respect, you don't notice it day to day, but there's also the taxes that you pay on top of it as well. So the government's done a great job of confiscating wealth and letting you be scared of actually ownership of property. And I feel that people, when they ask this question, they should really start to say, well, when do I say enough is enough? First things first, stop letting the government take away your money through inflation and start getting an inflation hedge. Now, if gold has averaged 11% a year for the last 15 years, I think that it's doing its job, right? So let's start there. Number two, start to figure out ways that you're going to avoid it going forward. And number three, stop being scared of ownership, because at some point, you know, if you are scared of your government and not the other way around, that's tyranny.
Jeremy, you're speaking to the right audience for this conversation. I have a lot of freedom-minded friends who you know, we're with you on this. Believe me, we're with you. The gentleman I had last week spoke exactly about this, about like literally the theft of wealth that has happened historically through inflation. You know, and he literally had a picture of a basket of goods from the 1970s. What $20 can get you was getting you. It was a basket full of groceries in the 70s, and now $20 gets you a handful of items.
Well, the funny thing about that is there's a great
and our wages are not going up. Like the average salaries are not going up to match inflation at all. And look what's happening now with all the money printing. So
yeah, there's a great demonstration of that in Michael Pento's book, where he just kind of shows that, you know, with
Michael
the CPI,
Pento's?
Yeah, he just kind of shows that with the consumer price index, when one thing gets too expensive, they replace it with something else.
Yeah.
But
what's the name of the book, Jeremy? What's the name of that book?
I'll have to look it up again.
But it's Pentos, Pentos, Michael P.
It is The Coming Bond Market Collapse.
All right.
And but what he did is he said, okay, so the CPI, what they'll do is they'll replace steak with ground beef, right?
Yeah.
But he did it in the first person. So he said, okay, you no longer can eat steak. You're now eating ground beef. And since transportation has gotten too expensive, you're no longer driving your car to work. You're taking the bus. And once that becomes too expensive for the CPI, you're now riding your bike. And if you put it into that perspective and you say, well, if I actually had to live my life based on the way the government manipulates the CPI,
wow,
I would really understand inflation much better. What I do for people is I'll say, or not what I do for them, but I'll demonstrate it to people by saying, what's the value of a Canadian dollar? And they say, oh, it's 135 against the US. Well, what does that mean? If you don't understand what the value of something is, then it's very easy for someone to take it away from you. Very easy. And so one of the tenets of having a gold standard would be that an ounce of gold is an ounce of gold. It's understood, right?
Yeah.
If you're in Argentina and it's an ounce of gold, it's an ounce of gold. If you're in Russia, 1 ounce of gold, 1 ounce of gold. It means that there is a steady, very simple balance for trade that makes everything fair. And that's what makes businesses prosper, that I'm working with you, we're doing a trade, we're doing a business, and that it's fair.
Yeah.
But if you don't know what the value of a dollar is, you know where you end up with? You end up with everyone, the gap between the rich and the poor growing. People don't understand why they're unhappy with their lives. All of a sudden you get into these existential issues. People stop understanding politics. They don't understand what patriotism is, and they just close their eyes to the whole thing. And that really stems from not having a currency, a money system that's sound. Now, I'm not necessarily advocating for a gold standard, but if you look at the chart that I showed you earlier, it doesn't matter. There's a de facto gold standard.
Interesting. Interesting.
Gold's going to go up if the currency keeps going down. So if you can either stay in the currency, or you can say, well, how do I balance against the loss of the theft of my purchasing power? And one of the ways to do that without taking risk is to own a metal that's been around for thousands of years. And that, especially during times where there is immense uncertainty, not just uncertainty of the stock market going down, but cold wars with China, or supply chains, or political issues, things like that. In times of uncertainty, what is certain? Well, again, if I can pull an ounce of gold out of the earth that was once part of a Mayan civilization, and nothing has changed about that gold, well, there's got to be something to that.
I hear you, and I think these are very good closing words, Jeremy. One thing I remember just seeing was the 200-year history of the price of gold adjusted for inflation, and at the end of the day, gold was a store of value. Right now, we are living in inflationary times, so that's why we're seeing the price per ounce going up and up. But if you adjust for inflation, it's a store of value that it's almost immutable.
Yeah.
I hear you. I love what you said. How can I ward off against the theft of my purchasing power? Those were powerful words. Jeremy, why don't you put up your contact information for everyone to see? I'm going to give you, let me give you back control. And everyone, I look forward to continuing to work with Jeremy. Should you decide to get in touch with Jeremy, and which I encourage you to do, please mention that you found out about Guildhall through Letitia, through this webinar. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I look forward, Jeremy, to really being able to refer clients to you. I think this is something a lot of people need to know more about and get their hands on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, anyone can feel free to contact me. I'm more than happy to chat. And
okay, can you guys see Jeremy's contact info there? Yeah, I see it. So hopefully they can see it as well. Yeah. So Jeremy, I'm gonna now go back to Facebook to see if any of our friends have. Okay, I think you need to minimize the screen somehow because I'm not able to. Or give me back control so I can minimize it. Okay. Okay.
People can go to guildhallwealth.com. I mean, they know my name now, Jeremy, and they can just ask for me. Very easy, guildhallwealth.com.
Okay, let me just check here on Facebook. Hopefully we were live. I don't see. Oh man, I don't see the. Let me go to my Facebook wall. 1 second. I see other people's posts, but I don't see my own. One way or another, I will be posting this. Let me just check. Yeah, we're here. Okay, people are making comments. Very informative. What about the fake China gold bullions?
Okay.
I don't know if you know anything about that. Somebody just said
Yeah,
that.
I mean, they got busted, faking gold. Um,
Really?
how, how,
Wow.
how can that not surprise you? Uh,
How can we trust anything coming out of communist China?
they do that with wine. They do it with
Wow.
intellectual property, tofu construction. I'm not talking about the Chinese, I'm talking about the Communist Party.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not a big surprise that, like, just break it down for a simple, they're supposed to be mining their own product, building up their own power of gold ownership. And where's the motivation to show your superiors that you're doing a great job than counterfeiting? It's built into the system to lie, right? So look, counterfeiting
Yeah.
is an issue. Counterfeiting is an issue no matter what you're doing. If you're buying LBMA approved and you're buying from an approved dealer, legitimate dealer, you shouldn't have these type of issues.
Got it.
It's
And the
very
other,
easy to test product these days. It's not going to happen to you. And if it's in your hand, or if it's in a vault where it's allocated and segregated and you have access to your product, you're never going to have those issues.
got it. Thank you for reconfirming that. And we have another question here. What are Jeremy's thoughts on buying metals from a bank? Can you even buy metals from a bank? I don't think you can do that in Canada, can you?
Yeah, you can buy metals from a bank. It's not always easy. For example, Scotiabank is no longer in the business.
Okay.
So if you bought from them, you can't sell back to them. They won't sell anything anymore. They're completely out of the business. CIBC's in the business, TD's in the business. The only thing I would say in that respect is, again, make sure you're buying the right product. For example, TD proprietary products are not LBMA. And number two, that just understand that they are not experts. They're literally just providing the product as a basis of if the money's got to leave the bank, then it might as well leave through us, right? The problem that the banks have with bullion is that once someone buys it, it's out of the banking system. They can no longer make interest.
That's right.
Their whole basis of being is that you keep the cash in the bank. But yeah, they offer it, and if the prices are great, why not?
But you better make sure it's LDMA approved and not just, as you said, proprietary product. Interesting. Because you already explained that when a product is not LDMA approved, the aftermarket, you're going to have some complications when trying to sell it.
Yeah, and there was a crazy story a couple years ago about a guy who bought from, I don't know, like Royal Bank or something, took it home, opened it up, cracked it open or something, tried to test it, and turned out it was fake. He brought it back to the bank, and the bank basically turned to him and said, well, what do you want me to do with it? You've opened it and you've broken the bar. So how do we trust that you're not trying to pull one on us?
Right.
But let's assume we didn't. The problem that the bank didn't do is the bank should have just eaten it and said, fine, you know what? When obviously we took this product back from somebody and recycled it and sold it to you, and we're going to take responsibility for that. And instead of just paying for the bar, which banks can freaking afford, they decided, no, I'm not going to pay for it. And so the Royal Canadian Mint had to get involved and say, they basically published a letter saying it wasn't our product, which is obvious it's not their product.
Wow.
Because RCM isn't in the business of selling fake product. But, look, those type of stories are actually good for the business because they help businesses innovate and create ways to provide recourse for clients. And that's why we offer the testing very easy. So, if a client is unsure and maybe they're living in Manitoba and they want to make sure that the product that we're selling them is real, okay, we can take a photo of the product on the scale, show them that it's real, see the serial number, and then they'll get the product when we ship it to them. There's lots of different ways to have that recourse. There's no excuse for counterfeit product these days.
Amazing. Okay, Jeremy, so much great information. Thank you.
Sorry, that was a big answer.
Oh my God, listen, no, and in fact, well, you just mentioned the shipping. So you mentioned if somebody wants to, or they buy enough product to store it at a vault, it's almost an instant transfer. But if somebody is buying a smaller amount and they want to ship to them, how do you make sure that that's all safe? Is it, how do you use, what do you use, a courier company? What do you use for the shipments?
So we use Canada Post. We ship it, it's insured on Guildhall's end. We provide a tracking number, and it's very straightforward. So once we ship the product, we send out the tracking number, client knows to expect it.
Okay, because with the tracking number that provides the security. And how about internationally? Like what if a US client wants to buy same thing, or?
We could do the same thing. We have the option of shipping directly from our wholesaler actually. So
wow.
Our wholesaler is located in Texas. So if we, if we have a client in California or something and they, we could say, well, we can ship it to you. But look, at the end of the day, there's a lot of very reputable big dealers in the States with lots of reviews. If a client really wants to store product in Canada, which we have a lot of people doing that.
Interesting.
Then that might be something where we could really play a role.
Interesting. Jeremy, fantastic information. Thank you so much. I think our viewers got a lot of value, as did I. And I look forward to continuing in touch and perhaps having you back to speak about the natural colored diamonds, which again is very fascinating to me. I have no idea, but women love diamonds. I'm looking forward to having one of these days. Just kidding. Anyway, thanks again, Jeremy. This is awesome. You. Have a great rest of the week. And I'll send you the link to the recording when it's available, okay?
Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, cheers. Bye, bye. Bye, everybody. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in also.